Before we get into today's video, I want to talk to you about a comic by the name of Koku. Now, this is another offering by Kugali, who some of you may already be familiar with because I've talked about them in the past with other efforts that they have done, like Nani. And some of you may have heard of Kugali during Disney's investors call earlier this year, where they announced that they would be collaborating with Kugali to make an animated series for Disney Plus called Iwaju. This is an animated series set in future Lagos and will be directed and written by Nani creator Zeke Nelson. And they are back again with yet another offering by way of the Bonzo title, which for those who are not familiar, Bonzo is kind of their term for African graphic novels, kind of in the same way that Japan has manga, well, they have Bonzo. And they are back with yet another Bonzo offering by the name of Koku. This is a story where the titular character, Koku, is one who can become a djinn. For those who know what djinns are genies. And he is on a mission to prove himself against the other djinns as being the strongest djinn there ever was. Whereas Nani was more of a young adult title, this story is going to be more adult in nature than what Nani was. So expect some darker themes, some mythological horror themes, some dark fantasy themes, but also somewhere in there, you're also going to find some very existential themes, like trying to discover what humanity really means and whether or not violence will actually get you what you want in the end, and in the end, would it even have been worth it? And don't worry, if dark fantasy and mythological horror and violence aren't necessarily your thing, don't worry. Kugali has tons of other offerings they're going to be doing throughout the year on Kickstarter, so make sure to go to their website at kugali.com so you can see more of the awesome comics that they have on offer. This comic already looks awesome. I've already gotten to see pages of it myself, and though these pages are unfinished, they already look incredible. And if Nani is anything to go by, having read both volumes 1 and 2 of Nani, I can tell you right now that these are going to be high quality books. They're going to be fantastic. Indie comics like these cannot exist without your support. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, show your support by backing this project and help bring Koku to life. Go check out their Kickstarter. There'll be a link in the description and in a pinned comment below, and tell them the Blerd Without Fear sent you.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today we're going to be talking about S.W.O.R.D number 5 by Al Ewing and Valerio Schiti. In this video, we are going to discover exactly how willing the Quiet Council, and more specifically, Magneto, is going to be to hear out Fabian Cortez's reasoning for why the second law of mutantdom should be amended. And if you don't know what law we're talking about the law of kill no man. More importantly, we're also going to learn who is the secret assassin who has been executing the Xenarch's royal cast and directly affecting who is going to win the Snark War. We're going to talk about all this and more right now, and there's no need to have a word from our sponsor because we've already done that, and we've already hit the intro. So let's get right on into the video. When we pick this book up, this one, what we're going to talk about first is what's going on with Fabian Cortez, because technically to talk about that is to talk about what's going on here as a whole. When Fabian Cortez is resurrected after the shenanigans that resulted in his death, as well as Sunfire's, in the previous pages of S.W.O.R.D number 4, thanks to the King in Black, Null himself, we learned that Fabian Cortez was resurrected with zero fanfare. Apparently, Sunfire was all the rage. He got the full spread of pageantry that we've seen other mutants get when they are resurrected, but Fabian Cortez, no one really seemed to care about. And even though Fabian Cortez likes to think of himself as being this high and mighty mutant, that he is better than everyone else, no one else seems to really give a about it. To the point that he is called before the Quiet Council in his birthday suit. He's not even given a chance to get dressed for the occasion, as the Quiet Council still missing a couple of seats, namely Apocalypse and Jean Grey's seat still being vacant, with Kate Pryde's seat being absent for whatever reason. We learned in the previous issue of S.W.O.R.D number 4 that Magneto had very specific people he wanted to be present at this meeting alongside Fabian Cortez. Now, I posited that the two other people he would want to have present would be Exodus and Amelia Vaught, considering their connection as being former leaders of the Acolytes. Now, that is not the case. For one, Exodus has already been with the Quiet Council, so he would have already been there. But Amelia Vaught made a bit more sense. But who the two redacted names were, turns out it was Abigail Brand and Peeper. Now, the reason why he wanted them present is for very specific reasons. You see, Peeper, while being one of Magneto's oldest friends, and of course a former member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and Abigail Brand basically being in charge of the S.W.O.R.D base, their reasonings for being there are very interesting. Abigail Brand's is less so obvious than Peeper, but the reason why Peeper is present is because Peeper sees things in people. He is able to witness and view things about people, and maybe give Magneto some insight he otherwise would not have. And right now, Peeper is here to basically observe Fabian Cortez as Magneto asks him a very specific question. He's going to ask him why he believes that the second law of Krakoa, to kill no man, should be amended. And Fabian Cortez is going to give a very interesting case, though he's also going to do a great bit of grandstanding while he does so. He's going to bring up the idea that murder no flat scan, which is something that's kind of already a red flag against his argument in the face of the Quiet Council, as Charles tells him that we don't use that word here. But Fabian, carrying on, says that they should not have to denigrate themselves before their oppressors, and if they don't consider the feelings of humans, that is what makes them monsters. Fabian Cortez has seen the worst of humanity, and though he does claim he has no desire to treat humans the way they have treated them, or even as how they treat each other, he does believe there is room for forgiveness, but he feels that mutants should not have to kowtow to humanity because Homo Superior is Homo Superior for a reason. He feels that they should not be forced to treat and coddle humanity as if they're some precious resource. Yes, they are finite, and yes, they are frail, and they will not live forever in the way that mutants will. However, he does feel that what they have become is something that is already on the path towards death, and that whether they be friend or foe, or even family, the question is whether or not they should just go ahead and end it for them all now, or just simply allow them to painfully keep existing. Something that actually kind of triggers Magneto, because some may quickly forget Magneto has more children than just Polaris, and I know some people are going to be real quick to bring up the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and I can't say this enough. They are no longer Magneto's children. That is a retcon. They may still be his children in your hearts and in your head canon, but in the case of Marvel Comics canon, as it currently stands, Quicksilver and Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, are no longer his children. So even though technically they are no longer mutant, they don't even count in this equation. What we're talking about is Magneto actually has children who aren't mutant. Sometimes people also forget about the character of Zala Dane, who has never really been 100% confirmed to be Magneto's daughter, but is considered to be allegedly his child. We also know that Magneto has family that are also not mutants, so this is something that Magneto is taking a little bit to heart, just to say the least. Now, this all brings us to the real root cause of why Fabian feels the way he does, and it kind of comes up when Peeper brings up, well, something that I think would be very obvious to anyone who is looking around the room. Pretty much everyone in this room has an alias. Most of these characters that are present all have human names and mutant names, something that Peeper brings up. He even brings up that his name is Peter, but he goes by Peeper. Mags, or Max Eisenhardt, or Eric Magnus Langsher, whichever name he decides to go by this week, at the end of the day, he's Magneto. Marv is Mentallo. Look around the room. Aurora Monroe. She is Storm. Kurt Wagner is Nightcrawler. Even if you look at characters like Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost, even they have aliases. The Black King and the White Queen, respectively. All of the characters that are present right now have some form of an alias, with the exception of Abigail Brand. And Fabian Cortez would be in similar company. He has no mutant name. He views his human name as his mutant name, saying that he is Cortez. Even when Peeper presses him even further, saying that, yeah, these used to be work names or call signs, but they become a part of our culture, so do you have a name? To which Cortez says plainly again, his mutant name is Cortez, and this all stems from the fact that he comes from nobility. Sometimes it's very easy for us to forget that Fabian Cortez is not 100% just a bog standard average white man. He's actually a Spaniard. He comes from Europe. That is why his last name is Cortez. He comes from Spanish royalty, and his family abandoned him and his sister when they discovered that they were mutants. They were stripped of everything and given very little in regards to any kind of monetary means or even any kind of family inheritance as their being mutants was revealed. And as such, he's reclaiming that name and he's treating it as though it is a mutant name. And Peeper sees right through him. This all reveals exactly why Magneto had Peeper there in the first place. This isn't about amending a rule so that mutants can skirt around the idea of killing humans. This is personal. Magneto does admit the issues that Fabian has brought up, that maybe manslaughter or negligence should be considered, but he knows what Fabian truly means, and that is murder. Magneto is quite familiar with it. He has killed in the past. He has thought lesser of humans than Fabian has thought about them today. He has all the reason in the world for why he hates humankind. Magneto has seen the absolute worst of humanity due to the Holocaust, which he experienced firsthand. He's seen how terrible humanity can be to one another. He has listened to everything that Fabian Cortez has had to say, and if anyone has any right to want to murder any human that he desires, it would be Magneto. But this actually shows us how far Magneto has come as a person, because he even says to Fabian Cortez himself that I have listened to how you have suffered at human hands, to your reason. But do me one favor, Cortez. Look me in the eye and tell me your reasons are greater than mine. You suffered at the hands of your family. They embarrassed you. They exiled you. They robbed you of what was rightfully yours by birth. But did you ever suffer the atrocities that he, Magneto himself, has suffered during the Holocaust? Something that Fabian Cortez cannot even begin to hold a candle to, which leads this entire meeting to fall completely the apart, because at this point everyone realizes what this was. This was no need for a quiet council meeting. Magneto simply wanted to publicly out Fabian Cortez for wanting to try to amend Krakoan law for petty reasons, and S.W.O.R.D has caught witness of this. Everyone realizes exactly what's happening, and even when Fabian Cortez brings up why he is vital to the entire S.W.O.R.D program, why he is vital to the space program, and how they will never go any further without his abilities, he reveals that even their precious Mysterium, the very same element that we saw Manifold take control of in the first issue of S.W.O.R.D, even the Mysterium is not enough to bring them what they need. And everyone realizes that Fabian is just trying to save his own skin. Because at this precise moment, Amelia Vaught appears out of nowhere, teleporting not only herself, but a new player into the game. A character by the name of Cora of the Burning Heart, a mutant from the land of Arakko, who, from what I understand, based on the notes that we've gotten from Abigail Brand, that she is called that because her heart literally burns in her chest, a furnace in her ribcage, and the flame is her very life force. If she keeps it to herself, it makes her stronger, faster, and more dangerous in combat than any 10 trained soldiers that she knows, and she's known plenty. But the interesting thing is, she can share it out and fill anyone close to her with the same burning energy that she's got, and in doing so, boost their power level far beyond normal. It's an ability she's already used on Arakko. It would be an insult to even suggest anyone needed that kind of a boost, but frankly, it's the answer to her prayers, because Fabian Cortez can't be trusted and someone has to replace him. And she also goes on to talk about how Cora is loyal to Arakko above all, but right now Arakko's goals are, and this also kind of runs off the page, but they say Arakko's goals probably, I'm gonna go on a limb and say, are not that disaligned from Krakoa's, which is more than she can say for Fabian Cortez. Hence why Fabian Cortez is being replaced, much to the chagrin of Fabian Cortez. And not only has Amelia Vaught brought this character into the fold, not only has she been revealed to Krakoa for the first time, it turns out that she's been around for quite some time and has been working in the shadows. You see, Amelia Vaught has been ferrying Cora around the galaxy, and you would probably ask, well, what is going on here? Well, it just so happened that she has been on a mission under the directive of Abigail Brand. You see, let's go back to S.W.O.R.D number 3, where it was revealed to us that Jaguar was assassinated by an unseen assailant. As it turns out, that unseen assailant was Cora. Cora has been going around and assassinating each and every one of the Xenarch's royalty. Anyone who is in line for succession in the Snark War to take over the Xenarch's empire. Not only that, she's also recently taken out other Xenarchs, as we saw at the very beginning of this, where Prince Weasel was trying to beg the Kree Supreme Intelligence for asylum. It was Cora who was the one who murdered him, as the Kree Supreme Intelligence simply stood by and watched. And it's later when we find out that Condor and Liga are plotting their next moves in this Quotey Fingers Snark War. We discover that Condor was the one who hired Cora in the first place to take out Prince Weasel and Jaguar, and this time he's actually planning to kill Liga himself. But there's only one issue with that. He is going to do it himself. However, Cora has already pulled up and she has been brought in to kill Condor. What's going on here is a coup. Abigail Brand has tasked Amelia Vaught to ferry Cora of the Burning Heart across the galaxy and take out anyone who could potentially win the Snark War and put someone in place that would be a more favorable ally. And in this case, it would be Kuga of the Boa clan. With Condor taken down and Liga now being the next in line to be executed, this is what has led to Cora of the Burning Heart being revealed. This is something that has really been teased from the jump, but we weren't able to tell because of all the redacted messages. We saw one of these redacted messages in S.W.O.R.D number 2, where it talked about primary loyalty is most likely to Arakko. This was something that was redacted. The word Arakko was originally redacted, so we wouldn't have known that this mutant came from that land. And we were also not told about her skill set as an assassin, that it would assist Abigail in the current Snark War by taking out all heirs to the throne, bar our chosen candidate. We also knew that somehow Amelia Vaught was involved in all this, considering that all but her last name was redacted from the S.W.O.R.D files, basically talking about the mission assets as follows, being Cora of the Burning Heart and Amelia Vaught, and all the names redacted were all names that were in line for succession in the Snark War, and that the objective for the mission was to end the Snark War with a radical modernist faction in control and indebted to the Sol system. Well, that particular modernist would have been Kuga of the Boa clan. Now, with that said, this does bring up a very interesting question. Abigail Brand just committed murder by having various and sundry Xenarchs killed. This actually leads Magneto to question her as to whether or not murder no human does that law apply to alien species. Should we consider alien species the way that we consider humans? Is alien life any less important than a human's life? And whether or not Abigail and Cora belong in the hole right alongside Simon Sabretooth Adebisi. But Abigail brings up a very important point. What they did was for the Sol system. What they did was to protect the entire nation, the entire planet, or maybe even thousands of planets. The Snark War will destroy everything in its wake just to seat a new leader. And she also brings up the fact that her father's homeworld was destroyed by the Snark War, and that it left him in a broken state, and that she doesn't want to see that fate seen by anybody else. Now, was this revenge, or was this for the Sol system? Either is up for debate, and Magneto even admits that either one is a good reason considering what she's experienced, but he also recognizes that others might not see it that way, and that the ground Abigail Brand is treading on is incredibly shaky. And Fabian Cortez was correct about one thing: the Mysterium is the new way. What they did will influence galactic politics and galactic society for some time to come. However, they still have the Mysterium, with which we don't even really know exactly what all it's capable of, but we know that it is an incredibly powerful element, an unknown element in the entire cosmic universe. And whatever is going on, S.W.O.R.D has been stockpiling what I could only imagine would be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of billions of it. This comic, wow, man, I love Outlook. Let's be honest here. Al Ewing keeps doing the Lord's work in this. I love how every issue of this, and I keep saying it before, this is basically Deep Space Nine, or we'll call it Deep Space X. This has been an amazing story that just keeps getting better and better and better. And with all of the politics and the science and everything that Al Ewing has been pouring into this, this felt like an episode of Deep Space Nine. It felt like something very Star Trekian in nature. I love the fact that so many things are being called back to. The fact that Fabian Cortez is divulging more of his history, the fact that Magneto revealed he's not as stupid as he looks over how he was fawning over Fabian Cortez, that Frenzy had nothing to worry about in terms of Magneto slipping back into old habits. And I actually think it was really cool to see that Amelia Vaught and Charles Xavier might just be hitting it off again for the first time since the 90s. Also, we have the addition of Cora of the Burning Heart, which I think is an amazing addition. I can't wait to see more. I've been waiting to see more Iraqi characters brought into the fold, and now we have one. And man, I can't wait to see more of what this is. I knew that whoever it is, they had to be some kind of a mutant power booster, and this is actually a very interesting way to boost another mutant's abilities. And it seems as though she can do it without any ill effects, at least as far as Abigail Brand is pointing out to us. Something that Fabian Cortez cannot say himself about his own ability. But anyways, I enjoyed this issue and I can't wait to see more about what's going on here, and I love the commentary here about whether or not it is okay for mutants to kill humans and whether or not anyone should have any say in it. And if a character like Magneto, a character who is killed in the past without even so much as blinking an eye, if he can change, if he can turn over a new leaf, if a man who's experienced the things, the horrors that he has experienced can say, no, we are not killing humans, then no one else really has an excuse. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure you share this video all over the internet and with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to S.W.O.R.D and Reign of X. Also, on your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about S.W.O.R.D number 5. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.